This video is about installing an Icom Mobile Radio into a Dodge Ram 2021. It's a diesel engine, large truck. It's a Ram 5500, I think, 5500s. And it doesn't matter what radio I'm installing, it's just a basic idea what I'm doing here. And again, I'm not an installer, but I've done so many installations, and here is one of them. The driver wanted this space to be used probably for storing junk and other stuff related to their job, and they agreed to have the radio installed in here into these plastic trims. I don't really like it, but it's solid, so it going off-road or going bumpy roads, it won't take the radio down. So it's pretty good, that type of installation there. The reason I'm installing is to show you how I run the power cable and how I'm going to run the antenna cable, and the rest is basic stuff, basic knowledge. But it was a bit tricky to run this cable through the firewall grommet. So if you look into that one, it's a little hole that you could use. Some people poke a hole through that one, but for two wires, like a power cable and the coaxial cable, is too tight. So what I ended doing was a little cut into that grommet, and you see it's shiny because I've used some grease, and I've used a piece of wire to fish this cable. But before, I had to find my route, because behind us firewall there is a fuse panel and a battery box, and it's very tight. You can't put your hand to grab stuff, so you have to use a fishing rod. That's my approach. You might be able to use an UFO device or some alien technology, but here on Earth I think a fishing rod would help. And once the fishing rod is through the two holes on two walls of that firewall grommet, so you poke a hole on the other side as well. And for that I've used a little sharp tool, but not a long and hard one. It's some small one that you can feel, so you don't punch a hole into the wiring harness. You stay away from it, about an inch away from the wiring harness. I don't want my employer to pay repairing costs, $1,000 to work on the harness. So I've used just an antenna as a fishing rod, and I had to bend it in different ways in order to fish it straight then up. So once I reached the engine compartment, so I grabbed the rod. I could see it here, so I was lucky. It took me a couple of minutes, but I was lucky, so I got the rod here. Then I've used a piece of wire as a fishing string. So I pull the fishing wire back with a rod, with a fishing rod. Then I attach this is my fishing wire, which I attached to the fishing rod. I fished it inside, then I removed the rod, and now I have a fishing line attached to the power cable. So power cable, I had to make this little loop because my fuse connector is too large to fit through that rubber grommet. So I made this type of loop here, use some tape so it can go through the little tight rubber hole that I made, and I take my fishing string or line here, use some grease, and it was very easy to pull it here. Now once I have the power cable in, so it's coming, it just the grease dries, so you can use some water, some saliva if you want to use that. In the past I used silicone, and once I use the silicone, when it's wet and soft, it's going to act as a lubricant, and once it dries, it seals the place. It seals that little rubber grommet hole. You don't have to do that. I'm just like give you a couple of ideas. Once I have this power line here run to this area, of course I have to clean up and use some insulation like a split loom. I have to run the fuses into this fuse compartment, fuse box with a fuse adapter, and I'm going to use a grounding one of these two bolts. Now once I have this one, I can pull it out just enough to help me to use it as a fish. So I'll attach the antenna coaxial cable to this line, and I pull this line back. So I'll pull it back until the coaxial cable gets back into the driver compartment. So while I have both lines in, then I have to pull my new fishing line, which is the power cable, pull it back to the required length here, and use tie wraps and, like I said, some insulation material, and then complete the job. So that's kind of the idea, without showing you tips how to make your job faster. Now I had to use a custom and modified bracket. It took me some hammering using a vise and going back and forth to my service van, and some nuts and bolts to hold this thing in place, and I think it's a correct fit. You might use some tape underneath to prevent the paint to chip off during some vibration, but it's very solid. So I'm happy with how this one molded to this fender, because it's a custom bracket. It is not perfect fit, as you can see that, but you can do a better job. So I'm under pressure a little bit, and I'm not fully satisfied with the way it looks. I see here a nut and bolt. Why? Because while I drilled into the sheet metal of the fender, I stripped it, and I thought, should I use this type of metal screw, not self-tapping? Should I use this one on this stripped hole? I said, no, I'm going to use a nut and bolt. So I ended up using nut and bolt and lock washer, and it's given me some strength over the years. And yeah, this is a stainless steel bracket. So that's kind of the idea. So this is for those who want to do it by themselves, and this is a regular VHF antenna with 2.5 dB gain, and yeah, that's it.